Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Adjusting to the New Normal Insights from Female Financial Professionals webinar. My name is Victor Gaxiola, and I work at TechGirl Financial, and today I'm going to be the moderator of today's discussion. Today we've assembled a really good panel of local female financial professionals that you can see right now on the screen, and from their names and titles, they represent multiple areas that would be specifically along the person's financial journey. So we've got a financial advisor, a CPA, a bookkeeper, a realtor, a loan officer, and shortly we should be having an attorney join us as well. So hello panel, hello everybody.
Hi Victor.
Hi.
Now before we get started with our discussion today, I just wanted to go over a few housekeeping notes. So number one, today's webinar is being recorded and a replay link will be made available to all those who have registered for the event. So if you have to cut out early, you'll get the replay link. You can watch the entire presentation. In addition, we'll be sending an email out with everybody's contact information on all the panelists, and that'll be emailed by tomorrow at the latest. So be on the lookout for that. As far as questions are concerned, after our initial introductions, as a moderator, I'll begin the conversation by asking the panelists to introduce themselves, and then I'll ask them a few questions. However, if you have any questions of your own, please use the Q&A box in Zoom to submit your own questions, and I'll be taking a look at them. We've earmarked a little bit of time towards the end of the presentation or our discussion in order to answer any specific questions that might come in during the live call. So let's begin with introductions. Starting to, well, from what I can see, to my right, and almost like Brady Bunch, my partner in crime, Kim, why don't you get us started? Tell us a little bit about yourself and your business, and then we'll go around the rest of the room, or in this case, we'll go around the rest of the Zoom. So go ahead, Kim.
Thank you, Victor. I'm Kim Gaxiola. I'm a certified financial planner and financial advisor. So I specialize in working with women in tech and their families, working to achieve a financial independence lifestyle, or what I like to say is your work optional lifestyle. So when something like today, or when something in this environment happens, you can feel confident that you'll make it through it with the assets working for your benefit and providing income. So I've been doing this for about 15, 20 years, and very grateful to have Victor in the business as well, the moderator, and he joined the firm a couple years ago, but he is not new to this industry, and nor is he new to our practice, because he's been in it prior to working outside in other areas of fintech.
Thank you, Kim. Let's go to Lisa. Hello.
Hi Victor. Hi everybody. My name is Lisa Silva and I'm a CPA. The name of my firm is TaxPros. And I'm a small local boutique tax service firm. We provide income tax compliance and income tax planning to individuals and small businesses, high net worth individuals, quarterly tax projections, stock option planning, things like that. And we pride ourselves on a high level of customer service and creating ongoing, lasting relationships with our clients.
Thank you so much. And Jeni.
Hello. So my name is Jeni Nunn, and I am a realtor at Coldwell Banker. And I grew up in the Bay Area, South Bay specifically, and I've been in property management and real estate for about 15, 16 years. And I've just really enjoyed doing what I do and helping people get into, especially I love working with people that get into their first home. But I'll work with move-up buyers or moving away, which tends to happen a lot here in the Bay Area. But yeah, so I kind of run the gamut of who I. Luckily, like about a quarter of my business has been women, so that's been fun.
Well, good. We're great to have you. And Janene.
Hi. Good afternoon. My name is Janene Chernoff. I am a loan officer with Field Mortgage, and I'm also the branch manager of the office in Morgan Hill, California. I've been in the business 40 years this year. Do strictly home loans, residential only, not commercial, purchase, refinance, investment homes, second homes, primary home. If you need home loan financing, that's what we do, and we specialize in that. We do the full gamut, whether you're a first-time home buyer or a high-end buyer, as Jenny said, a move-up buyer or a jumbo buyer, whatever kind of financing you need, that's what we specialize in. We have a team of about 28 people in our office. It's a pretty large office for a mortgage company in the Bay Area.
Great. Thank you, Janene. How about Wendy? Welcome.
Hello, I'm Wendy Vincent. I'm the president of Vincent Bookkeeping. I specialize in small, micro, and medium-sized businesses bookkeeping, so it's more business to business. Although in the last few years, I've gotten into doing the trust accounting for those who set up their trust and want somebody to handle all their accounts payable and track it all. And I work with everybody's CPAs. And I recently also became a notary so that I can help notarize the documents for everybody.
Great. And then
pretty much that's it about me.
Thank you, Wendy. And then joining us is Barb, Pretlove Law. Welcome, Barb. Oh, hang on. Let me unmute you.
Hi.
Okay. Hi there.
Sorry for being late. I'm Barbara Pretlove. I have Pretlove law firm in Morgan Hill. I'm an estate planning attorney. I handle trust administration, probates, and conservatorships for the surrounding area, Santa Clara County, San Benito County, and also Monterey Bay County.
Great. So that's the entire panel. And as you can tell, we did assemble some of the finest financial professionals, female, local, that we've been working with now for quite some time here at TechGirl Financial. And so, you know, we're looking forward to actually doing a physical networking event where we're going to bring people together to introduce ourselves, maybe bring in a speaker, an educator, someone that could talk about a specific subject. And then, of course, everything happened. Pandemic, COVID-19, we found ourselves doing a lot of Zooms, and we know there's a lot of Zoom fatigue out there, so bear with us, but this still remains one of the best formats to share a lot of information. And as someone who witnesses and sees a lot of webinars myself, is a great time to be informed. So having this panel assembled together, what we really wanted to explore is exactly how has shelter in place affected their businesses, and how are you working with clients in new relationships? So why don't we start there? We'll go again. Kim, why don't you tell us about how the shelter in place has affected our business?
Okay, so thankfully, it was really easy to transition our business into the work at home and a Zoom webinar type of platform to work with clients, because a lot of what we do is on webinars. I work with a lot of women in tech, and here in the Bay Area, it really is difficult to move around with traffic being what it is. While I have an office downtown San Jose, a lot of times people just want to meet online anyway. So I had been doing web conferences, web meetings, showing my screen to be able to share information, reports, and planning documents with clients already. We do a lot online, as well as I have clients in Illinois and other states that, you know, it's harder for me to see on a monthly basis. I try to travel there once or twice a year to Illinois because I have a large concentration there, but they also work with me digitally on the platform. So I'm very grateful that it was really an easy transition to go virtual. And, but other than that, it was very stressful at the beginning, and we are pretty swamped right now in terms of, you know, the market went down, we panicked, wow, then the whole economy closes and people have a lot of questions. So really, it was really important for us to just connect and touch base with all of our clients to let them understand what's going on, but also to hear from them. How has COVID-19 impacted them? Because that's really important to know what's going on in my clients' lives, because it oftentimes has a lot to do with their money, whether they're going to need their funds from their investment accounts or what have you. So it's been a busy time for us.
Yeah, so there's a great deal of adjusting and, of course, uncertainty and changes that are taking place. I want to move over to Lisa because obviously they made a change. We were all expecting to pay our taxes April 15th, and then they shifted the date on us. So how has this affected your business, Lisa?
Yeah, so, you know, aside from the fact that You know, I'm considered an essential business. My doors stayed open right through the heart of tax season, but it, you know, it changed my business in the sense that people that normally would come in and meet with me and do their tax returns now were not able to do that. But like Kim's business, I do a ton virtually anyway. I have clients all over the place. The majority of my clients don't meet with me in person. So I have the technology in place to be able to have documents uploaded to me securely and continue the process. The biggest change really came in with the new tax deadline and shifting from that normal tax season crunch of trying to get all these tax returns done to meeting the needs of my clients, which was, you know, a sense of panic. You know, I've just been laid off. When's my stimulus check coming? How do I apply for a PPP loan? So we just kind of had to do a little about face and put the tax compliance on the back burner for a little bit and address the issues that were of most concern to our clients. So I really took on more of an advising role and got to have some conversations with my clients that I don't normally get to have. So that's been a plus.
Right. I think the one common theme that you'll hear from all our panelists is that all have been essential businesses and have continued to have business as well as working with clients, despite the fact that you can't physically get together and you're, you know, applying the shelter in place. I want to move to Jeni because in real estate, especially in the Bay Area, that must be very challenging from the standpoint that you know, what kind of adjustments have you made in being able to show homes and sell homes because people still need to move and still need to buy homes.
Yeah, it's been interesting. They pretty much kept real estate essential from the beginning, but a lot of the aspects that we did change. So open houses immediately were done. So everything had to be virtual, which was actually nice for me. I've been on the video bandwagon for a long time as far as showcasing my properties. I really want people to fall in love with the home online enough to go see it in person and fall in love with it even more. So that aspect for me didn't change, but even getting a photographer in or a videographer in, the house had to be vacant. We had to use all the precautions and make sure that we were having masks and gloves, and signs have to be posted at the houses to make sure people are aware that they're taking a risk in coming in. I mean, and luckily the California Association of Realtors was pretty fast to getting some new forms out. As we do in California, we like our disclosure forms. So yeah, we were able to get those forms into each, you know, for every showing, you have to fill out a specific COVID form, and for every new listing that comes on, there's a special COVID form. So there's lots of things that have been got put in place relatively quickly to get it to where we could. So then it was a matter of showing in person was the very last step. If they had already seen it, driven by seeing the video, fallen in love, all those ways, then we could go see the home in person. And it was very strict, like just the agent and 2 at the most from the same household could go view the home. So I lost a lot of that personal touch that I would, you know, see people often and get to show them and actually see the houses often. We lost a little bit of that, but I think with the videos online, it really helped. So yeah, I think the biggest thing was getting construction to get back on board. Had a couple definitely delays from that, like roofs that couldn't get replaced and things like that. So it's a delay, but pretty much it's been busy as a normal season would be for me, which I feel really blessed for that.
Yeah, there is a lot to be said about being, you know, grateful for the fact that you can continue serving your clients and serving people and getting them in the right homes. I want to move over to Janene because much like the financial markets that drive our business, I know that the interest rate environment drives a lot of the loan business and the ability to secure loans for homes. Tell us, how has Guild and how have you adjusted to the new normal?
Well, it's interesting that the pandemic hit when interest rates were at their all-time low. So for our business, we're busier than we ever have been, all thanks to the low interest rates. We had our biggest month ever in 12 years in April, right in the thick of the pandemic, to give you an idea. And what's interesting is not just refinances, it's home loan purchases. We are not seeing a slowdown. In fact, we're seeing it pick up. And a lot of people ask about that, assuming that people would be afraid to buy. And as Jeni was mentioning, that is not the case, and people are not afraid to sell. There are those physical limitations and challenges, but it really hasn't affected us. We are essential. We were essential from day one. We closed our office physically, and I said I had 28 employees. Luckily, we all were equipped with laptops, and we all dispersed, and we honestly didn't miss a beat. We miss each other. The team component is real. It's lonely working from home. Mentally, I think it's taxing to everybody, and everybody's anxious to get back when it's safe. We had real limitations that were a little bit more strict than what Jeni was explaining. Appraisers couldn't go into people's homes. People didn't want appraisers in their home. That really stalled it. We can't get tax transcripts from the IRS because the IRS is technically closed. That's a document that we need to close a home loan. There's lots of those types of examples that I could share with you, which slows down the process. So borrowers have to go to the IRS website as an example and get their own transcripts. We don't have some of the third-party vendors that we had available to us. But even with those slowdown, that's really all that the effect has been, is that it takes a little longer.
Mm-hmm.
But there's all kinds of developments on a daily basis. It's truly fluid for how our industry is changing based on new clarity, county rules, state rules, federal rules. I mean, every day we get a new memo telling us something has changed. So that's been challenging. So the slowdown is the #1 challenge, and the changes on a daily basis are a challenge. The other component is those borrowers who were in process, who unfortunately were furloughed or laid off, or hours were cut, and finding out in the middle of a transaction that we can't finish it, unfortunately. The initial response from the government was, stimulus checks are coming, apply for PPP, go get unemployment. Well, all of those things are true and great if you need them, but they certainly affect the financing part of a loan transaction.
Yeah, a lot of adjustments, as I said, everybody finding their way, and the adaptability seems to be those organizations that can adapt quickly and are the ones that are actually thriving in this kind of an environment. Wendy, I want to switch gears and move to you, because I think you do work with a lot of small business owners as well. So I'm curious about how this has affected your business.
Well, I did a lot of my business already to where I use Dropbox or Box, hosting of QuickBooks Desktop. I primarily don't specialize in QuickBooks Online. There's a lot of bookkeepers out there doing it. So I've got that niche of the desktop client. What it affected was my ability to get documents. So I ended up opening a postal annex box. They allowed clients to drop off documents as long as it looked like it was ready to be mailed, no postage necessary, didn't cost the clients anything except for going to the postal annex. So that really helped in getting documents. And some other clients chose to upload their documents to Dropbox or Box.com, where they were used to having me come and pick them up and see more FaceTime. I had never done Zoom or video conferencing, so I'm like getting a lot of experience on Zoom now. And I really struggled, to be honest with you, at the beginning to get onto Zoom. Zoom was, working with all the schools and the students. And so I couldn't even get on for the first 3 weeks. So I ended up going to, there was another one, GoToMeeting or whatever. And so I used that in the beginning, and that was a struggle. So the tech for me has been more of the struggle, but I think I'm mastering it. I'm getting better. The biggest challenge for me was the notary. That has to be done in person in California. So I ended up getting together with my boyfriend, and we went down to Tap Plastics. San Jose Tap Plastics said my business was not essential, so they would not sell me plastic. So we had to go to Livermore. They gave us the plastics that we need, and we built our own COVID shield so that I could be safe, as well as the masks, gloves, things like that. I was sewing my own masks, so I was part of that bandwagon too, just so that I could be prepared for customers so I could do notary, because I think that's important. They still need that service. So Otherwise, I was pretty prepared to begin with. Even the payment stuff was all online. So I only had the little tech stuff to deal with the video conferencing.
Well, you're not alone. I mean, a lot of us had to find an adjustment on the technology across multiple generations. And it was more than just adopting the technology. It was bringing it home in some cases. And you had to be your own IT department, and you had to, you know, find ways to print documents. So if you didn't have a printer, you needed a printer. So all of a sudden, you know, the shift to moving to a home office for a lot of people, you know, was a struggle. I want to move now to Barb. So Barb is an attorney, and I know she was working with clients, but one of the components in her world is going to court sometimes. So tell us a little bit about the adjustments you've had to make, Barb.
Yes, so the rest of my work was pretty easily moved online. And same thing, signings were still being done. We just had to work around the notary part. Court was the main part. They did shut everything down in the beginning. There were no court hearings. For a few weeks, they opened up conservatorships only, everything by phone. So we were still able to proceed with any conservatorships because those are pretty necessary and time sensitive. So the whole court system did this shift to accommodate, you know, people that don't have capacity and really needed someone to be able to make all these healthcare decisions, especially in the middle of a healthcare crisis, right? And then slowly the court's been opening. They have done different ways to be able to hear probates ex parte, which means without a court hearing, doing a lot of consents for everyone and filing those consents instead of rather having full-blown hearings. So they're working it. They still haven't opened up fully. So that's really put a lot of stuff on the back burner. And I'm sure if you could imagine, as an heir, you're sitting on your inheritance, especially in a financial crisis right now. It's very frustrating for these people that have this money and have no access to it. So, and the court understands that. So they're working along with all the attorneys, trying to find the best way to make things still proceed and work in this time. But it is still kind of a mess, and it's chaotic right now.
Yeah, I'm sure. And a lot of adjustments, you talk about the backlog. And so I can only imagine, you know, how busy things are going to get. I think Kim had received a jury summons, right, during this. And she was sitting there questioning, do I still have to go, or are they going to come looking for me? I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be called in once things reopen.
Right. And I know criminal, I mean, they still have to keep going. I'm not sure how they're exactly handling that part, but they can't, that's something they can't really put on hold, right? You have a right to a speedy trial, so they can't push that back indefinitely. But for my area for probate, yeah, pretty much everything's been shut down, and it's slowly opening. So it's good news.
Yeah, so if you've gathered from the entire panel here, having to make adjustments, obviously, to their business, but they've continued to find ways to serve their clients despite the fact that you can't physically get together, how a digital-first approach can be a real advantage from the standpoint that there might not have been too much of an adjustment, you know, moving from a pre-COVID to post-COVID kind of lifestyle in a way to be able to address the needs of clients, and maybe even expanding that footprint because you're no longer hindered by the locality and having to have to be local in some cases. Before I move on to the second question, I just want to let everybody who's participating in the webinar know you can ask a question of your own. Feel free to go to the Q&A section of Zoom, ask a question, and I'll be sure to address that with the entire panel, or if it's in a specific area, we'll be sure to do that. So what I want to do next, and this is open to anybody, we don't have to go in any specific order, is what throughout this whole process of making the shifts have you learned about yourself or your industry? And what I'm really curious to hear from is, what do you think is going to change once things start reopening and we return to a sense of normally, you know, a normal? What lessons will we probably carry with us in the new world? Anybody want to jump in? We'll start with Janene.
I'll jump in. So getting a home loan or buying a house is usually considered a pretty stressful process. It's compared to getting married, having a baby, and buying a house and needing financing. So usually it's we hold the hands of our customers, and a lot of that is physical. We are used to meeting face to face. We want to counsel. We want it to be personal. And so I would say 50% of my customers were always dealt with in that way. So for me personally, same as Wendy, not comfortable on Zoom previously, now reaching out and still having that same personalized service face-to-face through Zoom is going to be a game changer for me. As Jeni said, a lot of our California borrowers are moving far away anyway. We aren't able to meet with them because they're not local. They don't have to be local. We were already really set up very well with the technology, paperless, borrowers already uploaded. Everything was secure and on the website. But now this Zoom or webinar component keeps us actually better in touch with our customers because we're touching base face-to-face on a weekly basis, where before it may have just been the beginning and the end at the closing. So that's number one. Number two for us is those 28 employees, they don't have to be in the office. And they need flexibility as well as I do personally. I think the new norm is going to be a better work-home balance. And I'm exercising now personally. I can do it anytime. Before I struggled to get to the gym, there was always a reason not to, right? The meeting went over. There's no excuse when you're at home and you're still able to meet your daily duties and challenges with your business, but balance some health too, maybe. So I like that aspect of it, and our employees like that aspect a lot. A lot of them will continue to work from home. Some already were, but more will want to for sure.
Mm-hmm.
For me, the initial meeting was always in person. And so like Janene said, losing that, what I thought was going to be losing that personal touch with Zoom, it's been pretty seamless. Like what hasn't been too, I still feel like they get to know me and my style. And then same with them, like I get to know them, even though it might be the first time we've ever met. And then one thing that is also shifting, I think, or probably going to make a forever shift in my industry is not just doing, if we get back to the point where we can do open houses, also adding the element of doing a virtual open house, which is also, maybe we do it from 10 to 11. I'm walking around and I can show the house for anybody that couldn't make it that day. And then maybe I can have it be a recording and then they can watch it anytime. Or they can ask questions while, just like they were there in person, they can say, hey, go back to the basement or go back to the kitchen, like show me, open that drawer, those kind of things like can happen at an open house, and they're registering usually for that Zoom. And so then I automatically have access to be able to get back in touch with them, which is really nice. When sometimes they would, the open house would be so busy that I couldn't get everybody, to get back in touch with them afterwards, but this way I will be able to. So I think that's going to be a huge asset for realtors specifically.
I think my business will actually jump back to how it was more so. I'm finding now that with the virtual technology, it is allowing people a lot more flexibility to do the Zoom meetings, do phone call consultations, and people really like that part of it as for convenience, but they're still asking me, when can we meet in person? I want to sit down with you face to face. It's a lot of sensitive issues that come up. And I just think the camera just doesn't do the job for that one-on-one, very personal touch for these types of conversations. So I think some will stay with the convenience of the consultations online and working through documents, but I don't think that actual in-person meeting will ever go away. And especially with court, that won't go away either. So for the client services, I think for the most part, 80 to 90% will go back to how it was. For the work part, my paralegal works from home. She has a young baby, so it's really been nice for her to have that flexibility. I have young kids, so it's been nice to have those flexibilities, and taking out that 45-minute commute in the morning and the afternoon actually provides me a lot more work hours. So I think it's a split. Client services will go back to in-person, but the actual workload will stay more flexible and remote.
Great.
So I think that maintaining that flexibility, right? And Barb speaks about going back to those one-on-one meetings in person, and I would tend to agree. I think we're more flexible and there are more of an audience that is more comfortable using Zoom for work now. That's exciting and open, but I really think somebody has to have, especially in our business as well, where it's a lot of personal conversations that we're having with people. Being comfortable in this omni-channel, which is, you know, a word that technology uses, and in retail they use it a lot, that being able to adapt to a client and go where the client needs them to be, whether that still is a comfortable face-to-face meeting or if we have the relationship online. But it's funny because while I used to do meetings online, I rarely showed my camera. Only for a new client would I show my camera, because I wanted to build that trust, and I felt that the face contact, you know, seeing each other, built more of that trust than just seeing my computer screen. So I think for me, it's just, you know, again, going to where the client wants to be. We're fortunate that more will be able to do this online. So when things are just too busy, they can jump on a video call.
I would also say that one of the adjustments that I've seen is the fact that, you know, everybody as a professional wants to put the best foot forward. And a lot of that could stem from, you know, what your logo looks like, what your branding looks like, what your letterhead looks like. And so then to get to something that might be, you know, unfamiliar, like a Zoom call, and the video quality maybe isn't so great, or the lighting isn't perfect. And people are very forgiving about that, you know, that they're okay, because what's important is actually making that connection. And what I've discovered, and I know that this probably applies to all the businesses here, is just how important having a strong connection is, because everybody in this call, everybody on this webinar works in a very high trust environment where you do have to have a good relationship with your clients.
I myself, I've noticed a huge difference in types of businesses that are weathering the storm versus the ones who are really struggling and really facing the uncertainty. And it has a lot to do with how their bookkeeping has been maintained. If they've got the right financial reports, if they've got the right advisors on their side, and it takes a whole team of people to advise these businesses in order to keep them afloat. Those with a plan, who have money in savings, who have like 3 payrolls saved up. So if anything happens, they can get the loans, they can qualify for loans, they've got the right credit ratings. And it's a matter of how they've built their businesses structured around the financial reports and the tax planning. And it's huge. It makes a huge difference for my clients.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Lisa? I mean, what have you learned more about yourself, or maybe just your industry in general, as far as how to have adapted? And do you think anything is going to change for you going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everybody else. I don't have a lot of new information to offer, but I don't think a lot will change for me for the most part. The first time I meet with a client, or the first time a client meets me, they really like that to be face to face. And I do as well. I think I could do it over Zoom, but I don't think it will replace the face to face. A rapport just gets established there, and better body language, I think, versus being on a Zoom call. I learned that I'm glad I spent the money on all the software that I did. I questioned whether that was going to be a good idea. I went cloud-based, and some clients were nervous about that. I was a little nervous about that, but I'm so glad that I did. It's made a big difference, and these companies weathered the storm right through it. I had no problems. So I learned that, you know, making those investments is a good idea, and I'm glad I did it.
Great. Well, we do seem to have a question. It looks to be centered over to Barb. And so here, let me give it a go. Barb, I'll go ahead and unmute you. We have a client, we have a person here, let's see, on the webinar who's currently undergoing in the divorce process.
Okay.
And they're currently in the responding to the proposal stage. Let me read the whole question. My lawyer states that we have a straightforward divorce as we do not share a business and our children are now adults. However, she's on COBRA from her husband's job loss of 15 months ago. The COBRA ends on August 31st, so it's coming up. However, with the divorce decree, they can get an 18-month extension according to the insurance.
Nice.
They want to know, do you foresee that the court slowdown is causing a problem for someone like herself to get the divorce decree in time to assist them so that they can get the COBRA extension? I'm not sure if that, hopefully that made sense.
It does, yes. So I don't work in divorce court, but I do have a client actually was in the same position. They were in the middle of a divorce. Everything happened. Adult children. They didn't have anything they were fighting over. They were in agreement. Everything was pretty much resolved, and they were just waiting for their final decree. So it did go through. It wasn't stalled. I know I do have an attorney friend in Morgan Hill that handles family law. She does divorces, and she says they are pushing through these cases. They don't want to disrupt people's lives, and they don't want to delay divorces. That's a pretty big procedure that you want to get that done on time without any stalls. So I don't see a slowdown. And if your date that your court date originally where you were supposed to get your decree, if that's extended, I would talk to your attorney. They are hearing urgency ex partes that would push it through and make sure you stay on track with that time frame, because with that August 31st, you don't want that lapsing. So I would definitely keep your finger on the pulse, talk to your attorney, make sure they're pushing it through. And if you're not represented, you could probably reach out directly to the court and ask them how they're handling that and who would be the contact to submit a petition for urgency to make sure your decree is heard and finalized.
Great. Thank you for that. I wanted to find out if anyone of the panel has any other questions for each other. And again, reminding all of those who are participating in the webinar that you can ask a question, as some have, by going to the Q&A section, and I'm going to go ahead and monitor that. It can be for anybody on the panel as well, specific to any one of our panelists. So before you speak, just put your hand up, because that way I can go ahead and unmute you. Okay, looks like Jeni has something to ask. Hang on a second, Jeni. Go ahead.
So what Barb was just mentioning got me thinking about if we've had any delays as far as working with recordings because that's a county, it's a county issued thing. And so it was a little worrisome in the beginning, but in the end, they just limited their hours and everything was e-recording instead of happening in their, county offices. But so houses surprisingly have been able to close on time with like great lenders like Janene. The lending with the appraisals being kind of not just like they could do a limited version of an appraisal, like they could drive by and look at the pictures, that actually kind of sped things up. So I've had a few houses that even though we had all these adjustments, they've closed early, or they've actually been able to close in 21 instead of 30 days. So there's some things that have definitely been streamlined. And one concern was working with the county, but that one seemed to have been fixed relatively quickly. And then the one we're still kind of catching up on is permits. So working with the city to get permits has been a little bit of a challenge, but we're slowly working to getting that caught up, I think, and being able to make those adjustments with new precautions in place, masks and so forth.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. Well, so as a wrap-up question, and it appears that we don't have, let's see if we have any new questions. Oh, we do have another question. So again, another question concerning the divorce is in terms of her receiving derivative rights to the spouse's Social Security, do I need to put a statement in the divorce paperwork? Another question is, if I deal with the Social Security after the divorce, when would I know when I'm eligible to receive it? So I know that's probably to you, Barb, and it sounds like it might be a question more for a family attorney.
Yes, it's a little outside of my scope of expertise. My gut would say that you would probably need to include it in the decree. If it's not in the decree, it won't be an order, but I can't be positive. Please don't take that as actual legal advice. I would highly suggest if you don't have an attorney, I can refer you to one in Morgan Hill that would be able to help you. If you would like that, I can type you out the name and send that information to you.
Great. And just as a reminder to everybody, once again, at the beginning of the webinar, I shared that we will be sending a link to the replay of this entire webinar, as well as the contact information of all our panelists, so that if you do have a follow-up question that you would prefer not to do it over through the webinar, but directly, feel free to do that. We'll have their contact information, phone number, and email address, so you can reach out directly. But I do want to take this opportunity as we start wrapping up, if anybody has any final thoughts. But before we let go, just to thank everybody on the panel, thank all of you on the webinar who are participating. So do we have any final thoughts to share? Just put your hand up and I'll go ahead and unmute you. All right, let's go with Janene.
Thanks, Victor. I just wanted to, I mentioned it briefly at the beginning, but I wanted to mention again the decision by anybody out there listening to reach out to your current lender and request a furlough or a deferment is a big decision that you might not be aware of the negative ramifications, possibly. If you requested a furlough and received an okay and still made your payments on time, you're fine. But if you stopped making your payments, which is the point of a deferral or you know, delaying in your payment, it will definitely have negative ramifications. So people aren't aware of that. The same with the PPP loans. Everybody should get them who needs them. But if you're a self-employed borrower who received a PPP loan and it reduced your income, that can negatively affect your qualifying. So if you're considering buying or selling or refinancing, and you have taken advantage of one of the government programs, you should probably reach out to whoever you work with for your financing before you make any decisions to see what the impact is, positive or negative.
Okay, I'll go first with Kim and then we'll switch it over to you, Jeni. Go ahead, Kim.
I would say for any of you that may be impacted financially and are hurt and suffering from a lot of stress and what have you, I always say to, take those deep breaths, try to find a way to calm down, and then think through the situation. It's so helpful to have advisors to kind of walk you through that, but think about your worst case scenarios. I'm an optimist. I love to be optimistic all the time. And I do believe, we do get our way out of this situation, and we're seeing things open up already, albeit slowly. But, think through the situation, think through the assets that you have that may be able to help you out during this period of time. Think through, the consequences of pulling out those assets, whether it's in a taxable account or if it's in an IRA. There are some rules that have been much more flexible right now through the CARES Act that will allow you to take out of retirement plans if you have had a loss of income or if you've had the virus itself. So talk to your advisors and you will find a way out of this. You never want to touch those retirement assets if you don't have to. However, and thinking about the long-term picture, when you talk to people that are helping you with your finances, you'll be able to see what it means. It may mean that you have to retire 1 year later, as opposed to, 65. Now you're retiring at 66 or something. It may not be that dire of a situation. And so this is the time to have that planning in place. And this is the value of the planning, is to be able to see how it really impacts you 20 years down the road or whatever that is.
Thank you, Kim. Let's see. Why don't we move to Jeni? Let me go ahead and get there we go. Just give me a moment. Go ahead, Jeni.
So what Janene was just talking about got me thinking. So it's the end of May when we're doing this Zoom and in 2020. And so it's interesting to see, like, a normal spring for us would be definitely winding up. And the inventory right now has been going up, but it's still much less than it was last year at this time. And so I think there are sellers that are a little bit nervous to to expose themselves but if they have the ability to move and have the home be vacant, it's the best case scenario to show it. And I've had homes during COVID sell within 48 hours with multiple offers. So I think it's kind of important to know what the current market is doing just right now as we're speaking. And with the low interest rates, I think it's been interesting to watch buyers still feel comfortable to jump right in. And like we were talking about, people still have to move even during these times. And so it's been surprising for me to see like how busy it's been, but who knows 6 months from now. I'm like Kim, I want to be an optimist and hope, that things will continue to stay, at least in the real estate world, stay, pretty stable. But if you're thinking about selling, don't let COVID be a reason, because the market actually is moving. Interest rates are keeping it moving. I think Janene was dead on that. But who knows 6 months from now what that interest rate is going to look like, or what, but there are safety nets in place is basically what I wanted to say for the sellers.
Yeah, there continues, like we said early on, a lot of uncertainty, but that's why, as Kim had pointed out, and I think everybody, if there was something that you picked up, is you work with advisors and specialists and professionals who know their businesses inside and out, because they're on the pulse of the information that's being brought out, and it's changing. And so to be able to interpret new rules, new regulations, how their industries are changing, and of course, being able to interpret how that impacts you as a consumer, as a client, as a home buyer, as someone who needs help preparing taxes or is looking to develop a will and trust. So there's a lot of facets to it. I wanted to before we end, Kim, did you have something else to say? Or let me go ahead.
One more thing to say is just and this has to do with the optimist side of me, is it's really unfortunate we're suffering through this pandemic. Some of us really stressed out financially or upset because we've lost somebody we know to the virus, which is horrible and devastating at this time. There are, I don't want to downplay that, but there are also opportunities in a recession and when we have a situation like this. And if you were unhappy in a job and you've been let go, or now's the time to think about what made you unhappy and what would make you happier, so that this change, if a door was shut, another one opens up, and that opens up to a happier, a more calming, relaxing thing. So, take the opportunity in this because there is always a silver lining, and find out what it is to pivot in your life to make it a happier and more fulfilling life in the future.
Yes, absolutely. And I think, Wendy, you had something to add as well.
Yes, I have noticed with my clients that they're wanting more information, and there's a lot of information out there. So I've actually started my constant contact, and now if you go to my website, scroll to the bottom, you can sign up. And I have certain businesses that if somebody says, hey, I'm looking for, what's going to affect my restaurant, or, what's the journal entries for doing the PPP loan, that's information that I'm also getting out there as soon as I get the information in. So if you want more information, sign up. I'm spending a lot of time studying so that I can try and help everybody else. And that includes the professionals, not just the business owners.
Thank you for that, Wendy. And Barb, I think you had something to share as well.
I do, and just to kind of jump off of what Wendy stated, there is a lot of uncertainty right now, and I know people are very concerned with their estate plans and getting healthcare directives done if they don't have those in place. So like Wendy, I've been offering a lot of essentially free advice. I do free 30-minute consultations, and what I found is a lot of people just want to call and ask questions to get a sense of security and clarification. They're not going through the whole estate plan process yet because there's financial uncertainty among it all. But I do have that open, just if you have quick questions, my family's going through this, we don't have a healthcare, what happens in such situations? And I just like to walk people through and give them a level of comfort so they know what to expect without any, pressure of doing a full estate plan or anything like that, just a way to provide some clarity through this.
Thank you. And I'm going to move over to Lisa. Just give it a second here to unmute. Go ahead, Lisa.
Okay. So I don't have anything as inspiring as Kim had to say, but you know, pandemic or no pandemic, there's still taxes. So just give you a reminder that if you haven't filed your 2019 personal tax returns, you have until July 15th to do so, as well as pay any tax due. And if you need more time, you can file an extension to October 15th, but that doesn't extend your time to pay, unfortunately. But you definitely want to get the extension filed, even if you can't pay, because that will help you avoid late payment penalties or late filing penalties.
Absolutely. Well, we we say that one of the facets of doing this webinar was the opportunity for us to basically introduce this amazing panel of financial professionals, female, local, in our community that are helping their clients. And I'm so happy we were able to put this together. Whether you were invited through social media, through a personal connection with any one of our panelists, feedback is going to be so important. Please let us know if you found this time useful, because we have considered the possibility of repeating it and maybe doing this as a series down the road, in which case we would invite the entire group of panelists to talk about their businesses, but more importantly, to answer questions and things that might come up, especially because things keep changing. But I would want to take this opportunity to thank all our panelists for their feedback, for their thoughts and insights today, for all of those who have participated here in the webinar. And I'll close it like I normally close just about everything lately by reminding everyone to stay safe, stay kind, and bear hugs will come later. So thank you everybody for participating today.
Thank you.
TechGirl Financial for setting us up.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.